Welcome back to Strayatrains. From goods trains to passenger trains and even special movements, with over 200 stations across the metro network, it can no doubt be a bit of a dilemma of where exactly to train spot from. Whether you like to train spot locally or go for a trip out to a new suburb, in this video we're going to take a look at 10 great stations to train spot from across the network and talk about what exactly you can see from these stations. Hope you enjoy the video. Just a side note, if you do see footage of a different station while a particular station is being talked about, just note that the train you see in that footage still goes past the station that is being talked about. Anyway, let's get straight into it. As we navigate in a clockwise manner, we'll start off out west at Newport Station for number one on this list, where you can see all four types of metro trains at Newport, 3 in service at a fairly frequent rate, and then high capacity metro trains sometimes run empty cars past Newport Station. But what is rather the most interesting part of service trains that you can see at Newport is if you ever want to see 3 carriage Comenge or Siemens, the only way to see them is when they run the Williamstown to Newport shuttles, which run at select times during weekdays and weekends, creating a unique sight of passenger trains currently on the network. In addition, you sometimes get to see some empty car movement shunting to or from the nearby Newport sidings. Plus, you just never know what might make its way to or from Newport workshops. You might sometimes see some light engine locomotive movement, sometimes some empty car movements, sometimes some suburban passenger train transfers, just to name a few. And finally, regarding the dual gauge goods track behind platform 1, again, it is bidirectional, meaning trains can head towards Melbourne or towards the Western Victoria / South Australia areas, which means you can see either broad or standard gauge trains on the goods line. But the one downside is there is of course a fence in the way. Whilst there is some positions to sort of film the trains, you can't really get, so to speak, a decent shot, which is why I recommend if you do want to see some goods trains action, it's probably better to head a bit further down the line, which is in the Werribee direction, to somewhere like Laverton, where you can see well in advance on the overpass if any trains are coming. Plus, if you do want to head trackside, there's only about 1.5 meter fence that isn't too tall, so you can get a pretty decent trackside shot as well. Number 2 on this list sees Middle Footscray and West Footscray stations. I'll explain why I put both of them on the list in a moment. But in terms of what you can see at these stations, you can see a range of passenger trains, including electrified services on the Sunbury line, V-Line standard gauge services to and from Albury, plus the V-Line trains on the regional rail link, including Geelong and Warrnambool services, Bendigo, Swan Hill, Echuca services, and Ballarat, Ararat, and Maryborough services, which means you can see a number of loco-hauled services pass by as well. In addition, you can see some less common trains, including the XPT to and from Sydney and the Overland to or from Adelaide. But in particular, Middle Footscray is probably best known for the amount of goods trains that go past. Because there are goods trains coming from out west, from South Australia, up north, from New South Wales, the frequency is probably the best in the state in terms of goods trains passing by. In addition, you can see some light engine locomotives go past, which I guess is somewhat common as well. But with the good comes the bad, and that is because Middle Footscray is an island platform, metro trains go past on either side of you, meaning there is a chance that you could get spark blocked by a train whilst filming a different train, which is rather unfortunate. This is why potentially going to West Footscray means you can avoid getting spark blocked, as West Footscray is 2-sided platforms under this current moment. However, again, there is a downside to West Footscray, and that is just similar to Newport, there is a fence in the way for most of the platform 1, which is where you'll be filming the goods trains. However, to avoid this, you can actually go trackside or film from the overpass, which gives a fairly nice view too. Remaining on the Sunbury line, number 3 on this list sees Albion Station. The reason why there's another station on the Sunbury line is because not all trains that pass Albion Station will necessarily pass Middle and West Footscray stations, all thanks to the Tottenham Triangle, which maybe we'll take a look at in another video. Anyway, for now, as a result, I thought I'd put another station on the Sunbury line on this list. Albion Station is a great station. Of course, passenger trains, both Metro and V-Line, pass by to Sunbury and Bendigo, of course. Plus, you get some goods trains, particularly standard gauge good trains, but a number of goods trains and other movements will junction off on the down end of Albion onto the Albion Jacana goods line, which in its name connects to Jacana Station on the Craigieburn line. In terms of train spotting, the Albion Station is great to actually train spot on the platform because you can see quite far into both directions on the platform, meaning you'll have plenty of time to know if a train is coming by. However, as you'll see a theme across the video, it is possible to get spark blocked, especially if you're filming a standard gauge train. However, fortunately enough, Albion has a car park adjacent from the station, allowing for a nice trackside shot with a fence that isn't too tall. Let's take a break now to take a look at the AK cars on the standard gauge line heading towards New South Wales. And naturally that means number 4 on this list is Jacana Station on the Craigieburn line. Also going to add Broadmeadows Station, as that is a station next to Jacana. Broadmeadows Station actually has a dedicated standard gauge platform for Albury V-Line services. So if you do want to take a look at some standard gauge action, this is no doubt a great place to be. Also on the other side, on the city-bound metro platform, there is a little area as well to take a look at standard gauge trains. In terms of what type of trains pass by Broadmeadows and Jacana, it is exactly the same that go past Albion, with the exception of you're unlikely to see local haul V-Line services, as all Seymour, Albury and Shepparton services are run by either Sprinters or Velocities. Another type of train that you won't see at Jacana Broadmeadows but you will see at Albion is any Southern Short Haul Railroad transfers to North Bendigo Workshops. This is because North Bendigo Workshops is located right near Bendigo Station, which is on the Bendigo line, so trains will not junction off onto the Albion Jacana goods line and head straight into the direction of Bendigo. On the other hand, Broadmeadows and Jacana stations sometimes may receive action that Albion may not. An example of this is a transfer to Seymour Heritage Railway Centre, which is a Heritage Railways operation group near Seymour Station. Sometimes there are transfers and trips to and from Seymour Heritage Railway Centre that run on the Craigieburn line to the city direction. As a result, they may not necessarily use the Albion Jacana goods line, which means sometimes it is actually beneficial to go to either Broadmeadows or Jacana instead of Albion. Moving to the Clifton Hill group, number 5 on this list sees Macleod Station. Again, being on the north side lines, you're really only ever going to see Extrapolis, with maybe the odd exception such as a heritage run on a particular day. So if you do want to spot some Extrapolis trains, the best place to go is to somewhere that is quite nice to train spot. And in my personal opinion, Macleod just gives you that feeling of almost like a getaway. It really doesn't feel like it's in Victoria. With all the trees around and everything, kind of is just a nice and relaxing place to train spot Extrapolis trains at. There is a number of places you can go trackside as well, which is quite nice. But in terms of seeing anything else other than Extrapolis, very unlikely for the most part. And with number 6, similar to Macleod, we're going to take a look at a station on the Burnley group, which indeed is actually Burnley Station. This station is pretty good, again, if you want to see Extrapolis at high volume, especially during peak, as Belgrave, Lilydale, Alamein and Glen Waverley lines all operate through this station, meaning you'll see a train pretty much every minute or just about. And if you want to head to the junction where the Glen Waverley line splits from the Belgrave, Lilydale and Alamein line, you can get some nice views, or rather interesting and unique views of trains, and you can see quite far up to Hawthorn. Of course, the only downside is there is a little bit of traffic nearby and sometimes some tents and whatnot blocking the view. But other than that, I mean, I guess that's good for Extrapolis trains if you want to see it. Number 7 on this list sees us head to the Dandenong group. We take a look at Westall Station, and as a substitute, I reckon Narre Warren. Westall Station is a great station to fill out, as there's a nice straightaway on both sides of the platform, so you've got plenty of warning if a train comes from either side of the platform. If you do choose Narre Warren, it's got a nice straightaway on the up end as well, which makes it pretty helpful, so you can see quite far ahead. And you can get a nice level crossing that is set to be removed in a couple of years' time from the publishing of this video. It is also quite cool when trains fly by fast at Narre Warren. In terms of the trains, you can see the Maryville goods at both. You can also see the Westall Apex train, however, that is only at Westall. Of course, it is HMTs galore with, I guess you can see HMT testing as well. You can see some V-lines, that is N-class and velocities. Plus usually some extra cool stuff. Sometimes there are extraplus empty car transfers to Westall. Sometimes HMT transfers, light engine loco movement. And another benefit of Westall is trains during the day usually cross by at the same time within about a minute of each other. So you generally don't have to worry too much about getting spark blocked if you are on the opposite side of the platform that you want to film at, because the Westall station is divided into a sided and an island platform. As we head to the Frankston line, number 8 is Carrum Station. In terms of trains, everything at Carrum Station you can see anywhere pretty much on the Frankston line, whether it's the 3 types of metro trains, the Long Island's goods train, or the occasional V-line sprinter to or from the Stony Point line. Why this station though stands out above all others, at least in my opinion, is the view that it has of the nearby land. Whilst depending on where you're standing, you can get a nice view of the city skyline, the nearby suburbs of Carrum, and the mountains in the near distance. What stands out above all in terms of views across the network has to be the view of the nearby ocean. You not only feel like you're right above the ocean, but you can see the coastline across a wide part of Victoria. As a result, at this station, you can not only get all the trains on the Frankston line that you'd probably come out to see, but you can get a nice view of them, which is why this station really makes a great train spotting location for anyone looking to get some really nice shots. Let's head to the city for number 9 on this list, being Flinders Station. Hundreds of metro services across every line, plus Terrelg and Bairnsdale V-line services, utilise Flinders Station every single day. In addition, most heritage trains across the electrified network do make their way through this station, meaning if you do want to see a heritage train, this is a great station to go to, as there's a good chance it's going to pass, most likely stop, plus you've got the historic clock tower and Flinders Street Heritage building in the background, creating a really cool throwback shot to what the network once looked like many years ago. In addition, you also get your goods trains that pass Flinders Station on the Frankston and Pakenham lines, currently at the time of making this video being the Long Island Seal on the Frankston line, plus the Maryville Paper and Westall Apex trains on the Pakenham line. And whenever the track inspection vehicle EV120, otherwise nicknamed Evie, goes across the electrified network, it will generally come to Flinders Street before it starts its journey to its suburban destination, meaning this is also a great place to see the metro inspection vehicle. And if you thought we were done, absolutely not. You just never know what's going to come by Flinders Station, whether it's a test train or an unexpected locomotive. It really is just one of those stations where if you're here at the right time, you just never know what you're going to see. But there is one downside to it, and that is it is a fairly busy station by nature. In fact, the busiest on the network, which makes it quite hard to film without getting, people in the background and whatnot. And you really can't film at this station during peak because it is simply too crowded. So if you are filming at Flinders Street or taking photos, it's probably best to be maybe, for example, on the west end of platform 10, where you're not really in the way of too many people. But other than that, it is a really good station to film at. Plus, whenever you're done, you can guarantee yourself you'll be right at the station where your train departs, meaning it's very easy to get home afterwards as well. Number 10 on this list sees Southern Cross Station. Similar to Flinders Street, Southern Cross Station sees every single metro line utilise the station. In addition, it is the regional terminus for V-line trains, meaning Southern Cross Station actually sees more passenger trains than Flinders Street each day. This means that passengers get the unique opportunity to actually see firsthand a lot of shunting take place each day at Southern Cross Station for locomotive hauled services. This not only is the light engine movement of the N classes, but also a lot of the Y class locomotives shunting some of these locomotives and passenger train carriages. Anyway, I hope this has given some inspiration for some metro train spotting locations across the network. Let me know what your favourite ones are in the comments, and I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers.